Greetings. We are joined by Patrick McHenry and the House Financial Services Committee to ask and answer perhaps one of the most important questions in all of digital assets. Let's watch.
So do you recognize, how would you categorize Ether then?
Look, I think that the general sweep of what Congress did, not just in the 30s, but as amended.
I'm asking you, sitting in your chair now, to make an assessment under the laws as exist. Is Ether a commodity or a security?
Without speaking to any one.
I know you've repeatedly said you're not going to speak to one, except you've spoken to one, Bitcoin. So I'm asking you to speak to
And
the
Algorand.
second largest market cap here.
And speaking to the tokens, there's 10 to 12,000. If there's a group of entrepreneurs in the
I'm asking you about one.
Hey, no. Yeah, we're not. No, Gary, we're not talking about assets built on Ethereum. We're talking about Ethereum. Answer the goddamn question.
A profit based on the.
I'm asking you a specific question, Chair Gensler. I said this in private. This should be no shock to you. I'm asking this question. Is Ether a commodity or a security?
And again, it depends on the facts and the law, and if there's a group of individuals.
I'm asking you about the facts and the law sitting in your seat and the judgment you are making.
And so, Mr. Chair, I think you would not want me to prejudge because I'm also.
But you have prejudged on this. You've taken 50 enforcement actions. We're finding out as we go, as you file suit, as people get Wells notices on what is a security in your view, in your agency's view. I'm asking you a very simple question about the second largest digital asset. What is your view?
And my view is if there's a group of individuals in the middle that the public is anticipating.
All right, so let me just ask a second question then. Do you think it serves the market for an object to be viewed by the commodities regulator as a commodity and the securities regulator to be viewed as a security? Do you think that provides
clarity
for the product? Do you think it provides consumer protection? Do you think it serves the value of innovation? I think no should be a very simple answer for you here.
I think
that uncertainty is bad, is it not?
And I think that Congress has said that there's one agency, the Securities and Exchange Commission, under this committee.
And you won't answer my question, and you're the head of that agency. So give me a break. Come on.
This is incredible to me. As a commentator observing this exchange, Gary Gensler is simultaneously saying, I am vested with the authority to determine and handle this problem. And yet, I have absolutely no indignant reason to even make a ruling on the problem, especially not in this setting. Isn't that convenient, Gary? Isn't that convenient?
I'm answering it in the generic because you would not want me to speak about any one set of facts and circumstance.
Okay.
I'm certain we wouldn't, because there isn't one set of facts and circumstances that applies to all digital assets uniquely. They are all quite various, quite heterogeneous.
Okay, so, but you've already spoken. Have you said anything about Bitcoin?
My predecessors and the agency itself has spoken to them.
Okay,
yes.
But you're not willing to do the same about Ether. Okay, so
about Ether.
There's a lack of clarity here in the marketplace.
Yes, there
Would
is.
you at least agree to that?
I think that the clarity is there. The law is clear.
All right.
There's a group
so let me be explicit about this. The market doesn't see it. Your regulatory actions and the CFTC's regulatory actions say that there's a great deal of uncertainty here. It is the intention of this committee to fix that uncertainty and actually provide a sound legal basis for this. So let me get into your rulemaking process. So you've proposed 53 rules in 2 years. Mary Jo White proposed 23. Jay Clayton proposed 26. At the same time, your agency has consistently provided less comment period than either of your predecessors. Just as one example, when the SEC made significant changes to the U.S. equity markets in 2005 for regulation NMS, the Commission broadly solicited public feedback, held numerous roundtables, issued white papers and concept releases. Fast forward to today, you've proposed 4 equity market structure proposals that would impact millions of retail investors, and you provided a mere 60 days of comments on 1,600 pages of regulations. So let me ask you this. Do shorter comment periods and less public interaction improve rulemaking?
We actually put out the equity market structure rules had 105 days of comment from the time we voted it out through March 31st. But I think robust public input helps us greatly, and we take comments on our rules. Our average has been about 70-plus days overall. But we also get comments.
And I want to get into the cost-benefit analysis, but my time has expired. With that, I'll recognize the ranking member.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gensler. I'd like to give you time to give your answer to Mr.
Fast forwarding ahead, because this is my personal highlight reel, we now present the gentleman from Minnesota, Mr. Emmer.
The gentleman from Minnesota, Mr. Emmer, is now recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you. Chair Gensler, I have a lot of questions in a limited amount of time, so if you could keep your answers to either a yes or a no, that will allow us to get through as many as possible, sir. From your
He's not
perspective,
gonna
is it
do
more
that.
difficult now for the digital asset industry to access financial products and services in the United States than it was, say, 2 years ago?
Question is it easier or harder for crypto
Sir,
folks to access
I'm
money?
not running one of those businesses. If they came into compliance, I think
Reclaiming
that
my
would be
time. The answer, sir, is yes. Do you think you and the SEC have had a role to play in that?
In making it easier for us to access the
I think we
services.
have a role to protect the American investor and the capital markets and the
Reclaiming my time, sir. You have played an obvious role in that. During your tenure at the SEC, how many rules has the SEC finalized that actually accommodate the existing regulatory framework and are specifically to the digital asset industry so the crypto market can come into compliance?
We have no clarity.
There are rule books that are on the books for years, so we have not finalized any new rule specifically with regard to crypto. We've proposed some things in best execution. We have also...
Sir, reclaiming my time, the answer is 0. And how many enforcement actions has the SEC levied against digital asset companies during your tenure, sir?
Almost
I
5
think it's
dozen.
Probably 40 or 50.
The answer, sir, is about 55. My understanding is that the biggest crypto failure in history is probably FTX at $9 billion. Were you the chairman of the SEC when FTX collapsed?
Yes.
It's also worth noting Mr. Gensler is an MIT professor of economics. It's also worth noting that Sam Bankman-Fried and Caroline Ellison were students at MIT. Even more curious is that his MIT boss was Caroline Ellison's father. There are a lot of questions I have, and I'm sure Mr. Emmer and others have about these connections, but don't expect any answers for this today.
How many times did you meet with FTX prior to their collapse?
I think my public record shows 2.
You met it with FTX at least twice. And arguably, the second biggest crypto failure in history was Terra Luna. Who was the chairman of the SEC when Terra Luna collapsed, sir?
We had brought...
You were, sir. Reclaiming my time, you were. There are 5 members on the commission. Do you believe your speeches and interviews are to serve as the official position of the SEC?
Based on the fact that he said earlier that he's not here as the chairman of the SEC, he's just here to deliver his personal opinions. So it's not clear whether there are rules for crypto. It's not clear what Mr. Gensler has in mind or what he thinks his role in all of this even is. He's told us he's a protector of investors. He certainly hasn't done that. He's told us that he's here to give us his opinions on crypto being a non-compliant. But how can crypto comply with rules that were designed for pencils and pens? We've long since moved past that world. Quite quickly. Maybe he didn't notice, but that's an important distinction, and we might need new rules for internet native assets rather than the same rules for the pen and paper assets, because it's a little bit harder to erase an entry on Ethereum's ledger than it is to erase an entry in a Goldman Sachs ledger.
I can only speak for myself when I'm speaking.
Again, sir, in a statement on the SEC website, you are quoted saying, "The Kraken staking as a service enforcement action should make clear to the marketplace that staking as a service providers must register." But again, you haven't provided any rules for how that can be done. I must remind you, your public statements are not regulations. It's not responsible to expect the American people to assume your statements are a substitute for rules. Do you agree with this statement regarding the digital asset industry? The SEC needs additional congressional authorities to prevent transactions, products, and platforms from falling between the regulatory cracks.
I think that it's a largely non-compliant field. And
Sir,
we could use
again,
additional
I asked you to comply with my questions, and I'm asking you if you agree with that quote. And I'm going to tell you, I'm quoting you from an August 3rd, 2021 article where you, and I believe you told Congressman Hill earlier that you need congressional authority to regulate stablecoins, and stablecoins happen to be a significant percentage of the crypto market. So the question is, when were you telling the truth? To Mr. Hill or to me? You've got to start answering these questions in a more transparent manner, sir. Does it concern you, by the way, that your approach to the digital asset industry is actually driving this industry out of the United States?
Mr. Gensler's not interested in transparency. He's interested in maintaining an opaque status quo, because it is that status quo that benefits him and his multi-millionaire friends.
We're trying to drive it to compliance, and if they're not complying with the laws, then they shouldn't be offering their products.
Reclaiming my time. Madam Chair, I would like to enter into the record this Wall Street Journal article from April 14th, 2023, detailing China's
4 days old
banking system to crypto firms in an effort to seize an opportunity created by our hostile regulatory environment, which, Mr. Chair, you're a big part of.
Without objection.
Chair Gensler, FTX was domiciled abroad and so is Binance, yet American consumers still had access to both. You can't really think that pushing this industry abroad is going to protect American consumers when it hasn't several times in the past on your watch. You say the crypto market is rife with non-compliance. However, existing SEC rules make no sense for blockchain-based companies, and following them would actually kill these businesses. Your regulatory style lacks flexibility and nuance, and as a result, you've been an incompetent cop on the beat, doing nothing to protect everyday Americans and pushing American firms into the hands of the CCP. Your intention to work against SEC mission and put American investors in harm's way has been made very apparent, sir. It's been a year and a half since you've appeared before this committee. You need to answer to Congress about the issues that you've had with the SEC staff union, the work environment you've cultivated at the SEC that's led to hemorrhaging of senior staff, the intellectual inconsistency of your regulatory treatment towards Bitcoin spot ETFs, and your politicization of capital formation opportunities through your treatment of certain SPACs. And that's just to name a few. Thank you. I yield.
Gentleman from New Jersey, Mr. Gottheimer.
Wow. I think that speaks for itself, don't you? Thanks for checking it out.